You ever notice how some people carry this invisible weight around like they're lugging a backpack full of bricks that nobody else can see? They move through life slower than they should, tired in ways that sleep can't fix, drained by something that isn't quite visible on the surface. Meanwhile, others seem to glide through existence with this effortless lightness, unburdened by the same heaviness that crushes everyone else. Here's the thing that'll mess with your head. Most of that exhaustion isn't coming from what's happening to you right now. It's coming from what already happened, what's already gone, what's already over, but your mind, your emotions, your entire nervous system is still carrying it around like it's happening in real time. Think about it. How much mental energy do you spend replaying conversations that ended months ago? How much emotional bandwidth gets eaten up by relationships that don't even exist anymore? How often do you find yourself mentally arguing with people who've already moved on, defending yourself against criticisms that were spoken years ago, or feeling hurt by situations that have zero impact on your actual life today? It's like your brain is a hoarder, collecting emotional junk and refusing to throw anything away. Every slight, every disappointment, every moment of embarrassment gets filed away in some mental storage unit that you keep paying rent on, even though you never actually go there to use any of it. And here's what's really wild. The people who hurt you, disappointed you, or let you down, they're not carrying any of that weight. They're not losing sleep over what they did to you. They're not replaying those moments on an endless loop. They've moved on, probably forgotten half of it, and they're living their lives completely free from the burden you're still carrying for them. So, essentially, you're doing their emotional heavy lifting for them. You're maintaining a museum of pain that they don't even remember contributing to. You're keeping alive grudges that the other person doesn't even know exist. You're suffering on behalf of people who aren't suffering at all. Let's get specific about this because I want you to really see how this plays out. You know that person who betrayed your trust 3 years ago? The one who promised they'd be there for you and then just disappeared when things got tough? You still feel that sting when you think about it. Your body still tenses up when their name comes up in conversation. You still have imaginary conversations with them where you finally tell them how much they hurt you. But here's the reality check. They're not thinking about you. They're not carrying guilt about what they did. They've rationalized it, justified it, or simply forgotten it. They're living their life, pursuing their goals, probably repeating the same patterns with other people, completely unburdened by what they put you through. And you're still there, 3 years later, carrying their emotional debt. You're still angry about something that has zero impact on your current reality. You're still wounded by someone who isn't even in your life anymore. You're still letting their past actions dictate your present energy levels. This is why you're exhausted, not because your life is particularly difficult right now, but because you're living multiple timelines simultaneously. You're not just dealing with today's challenges, you're also carrying yesterday's pain, last month's disappointments, and last year's betrayals. You're trying to function in the present while your emotional system is stuck processing events that are already finished. And it gets worse, because you're not just carrying the weight of what actually happened, you're also carrying the weight of what you wish had happened, what you thought would happen, what you planned for that never came to fruition. You're mourning futures that never existed, relationships that never developed, opportunities that never materialized. You're exhausted because you're trying to live in 3 different realities at once: the past that's already over, the present that's actually happening, and the future that exists only in your imagination. No wonder you're tired. No wonder you feel like you're running on empty. You're not just managing your actual life. You're managing a whole collection of lives that exist only in your head. Here's something that might sound harsh, but needs to be said. Most of the pain you're carrying isn't even serving you anymore. It's not protecting you. It's not teaching you valuable lessons. It's not making you a better person. It's just there, taking up space, consuming energy, making everything harder than it needs to be. You know what's really messing with people's heads? They think holding onto this stuff makes them loyal, makes them deep, makes them someone who really feels things. Like somehow, letting go of old pain would make them shallow or uncaring. But that's not depth. That's just addiction to suffering. That's not loyalty. That's just an inability to move forward. The people who seem to have endless energy, who bounce back from setbacks, who don't get dragged down by life's inevitable disappointments, they're not superhuman. They're not emotionally numb. They've just figured out how to travel light. They've learned to put down the bags they don't need to carry. They understand something crucial. Honoring your experiences doesn't mean carrying them with you everywhere you go. You can acknowledge that something hurt you without letting it continue hurting you. You can learn from disappointment without staying disappointed. You can remember what happened without living like it's still happening. And here's the part that's going to sound almost too simple to be true. The moment you stop carrying what's already gone, you'll have energy you forgot you had. You'll feel lighter in ways you didn't even realize you were heavy. You'll have mental space for new experiences, new relationships, new possibilities that you couldn't even see before because you were too busy managing old business. But here's the real question. If all of this is true, if carrying the past is what's draining you, then why is it so hard to let go? Why do people cling to old pain like it's precious cargo? Why do we hold on to grudges, replay old arguments, and maintain emotional connections to people who've already moved on? The answer is more complex than you might think, and it has everything to do with how your brain is wired to process unfinished business. Your mind doesn't like loose ends. It doesn't like stories without resolution. It doesn't like situations that feel incomplete or unfair. So when someone hurts you and never apologizes, when a relationship ends without closure, when you're treated unfairly and never get justice, your brain keeps that file open. It keeps running background processes, trying to solve problems that can't be solved, trying to finish stories that are already over. It's like having too many browser tabs open on your computer. Each one is consuming processing power, slowing down the whole system, even though you're not actively using most of them. But unlike browser tabs, you can't just click an X to close these mental loops. They require a different kind of intervention. The exhaustion you're feeling isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Your brain is literally working overtime, trying to process information that doesn't need to be processed, trying to solve problems that don't need to be solved, trying to complete tasks that are already finished. And this is where most people get stuck. They think the solution is to figure out the past, to make sense of what happened, to get closure from the people who hurt them, but that's like trying to finish a puzzle when half the pieces are missing. You can spend forever trying to complete something that was never meant to be completed, at least not in the way you imagine. The real breakthrough comes when you realize that completion doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from getting apologies you'll never receive, explanations that will never make sense, or justice that will never arrive. Completion comes from your decision to stop participating in unfinished business. This is why some people can experience terrible things and still move forward with their lives, while others get stuck on relatively minor disappointments for years. It's not about the severity of what happened. It's about their relationship to incompleteness. Some people can live with unanswered questions, while others exhaust themselves trying to answer questions that don't have answers. And here's what's really going to mess with your head. The very act of trying to get closure often prevents closure from happening. The more you chase resolution, the more you reinforce the idea that you need a resolution to move on. The more you demand answers, the more power you give to the people who withhold those answers. The most exhausting thing you can do is make your peace of mind dependent on other people's actions. Because here's the truth. You can't control whether someone apologizes, whether they acknowledge what they did, whether they feel guilty, whether they change their behavior. You can't control whether life feels fair, whether bad things happen to good people, whether the universe makes sense. But you can control whether you keep carrying weight that isn't yours to carry. You can control whether you keep participating in drama that's already over. You can control whether you keep giving your energy to people who aren't giving their energy to you. This is where the real work begins. Not in figuring out the past, but in deciding what you're going to do with the present. Not in getting closure from others, but in giving closure to yourself. Not in making sense of what happened, but in making peace with not needing it to make sense. Because at the end of the day, the question isn't whether you were treated fairly, whether you got what you deserved, whether people lived up to your expectations. The question is, what are you going to do with the life you have right now? Are you going to spend it carrying other people's debt, or are you going to use it to build something that actually belongs to you? The people who seem to have unlimited energy, who bounce back from anything, who don't get bogged down by life's inevitable disappointments, they've figured out the secret that most people never learn. The past is only as heavy as you decide to make it. And the moment you decide to put it down, you'll discover energy you forgot you had. So now you've identified the problem. You know where the exhaustion comes from, and you understand that letting go isn't about becoming careless. It's about becoming strategic with your energy. But here's the thing most people don't want to hear. Even after you recognize this pattern, your brain will fight you on it. See, your mind has spent years conditioning itself to hold on to everything. It's like a digital hoarder that saves every email, every photo, every random thought, because what if you need it later? What if that grudge from 3 years ago becomes relevant again? What if that embarrassing moment from high school suddenly matters? But here's what actually happens when you start practicing real detachment. At first, it feels wrong. Your brain will scream at you that you're being irresponsible, that you're giving up, that you're not taking things seriously enough. That's normal. That's the old programming trying to keep you stuck in familiar patterns. The trick is to start small. Pick one thing today that you've been carrying around unnecessarily. Maybe it's a conversation that didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe it's a missed opportunity you keep replaying. Just set it down. Not forever, not dramatically, just for today. Notice what happens when you do this. You don't fall apart. The world doesn't end. Nobody even notices except you. And suddenly there's this space where that weight used to be. That's your energy returning to you. The people who seem to glide through life effortlessly, they figured out this secret years ago. They learned to distinguish between what deserves their mental real estate and what doesn't. They developed the ability to engage fully with what matters while letting everything else pass through them like water. And once you start living this way, you'll wonder how you ever functioned before. Because carrying around emotional baggage isn't just exhausting, it's expensive. Every unresolved conflict, every replayed scenario, every what if that you entertain costs you something. It costs you presence, creativity, spontaneity, joy. The exhaustion you feel isn't because life is too demanding, it's because you're trying to live multiple lives simultaneously. The life you're actually living, plus all the alternate versions where things went differently, plus the imaginary future where you're still dealing with past problems. But you only get one life, happening right now. And when you finally put down what's already gone, you free up enough energy to actually live it.